my name is Ian, and I will be presenting to you about my multinational company that conducts business between the United States and Mexico, and our product is coffee. I will be buying coffee from Mexico and selling them in the United States. Mexico is the closest coffee-producing country to the United States. Buyers' interest has been turned to Mexico because of the ease of access and the abundance of quality coffee that the country produces. Coffee in the United States is considered the largest food import and is one of the most valuable and powerful commodity, only second to oil. And in the United States alone, there are about 130 million consumers that are coffee drinkers. And the United States is also the largest buyer of coffee because they consume 1/5 of the world's coffee. In Mexico, I would be purchasing coffee beans directly from the farmers in Mexico, and then I would rent a factory where I would hire labor to process and roast the coffee beans, then vacuum seal and freeze them for storage before transporting to the United States. Most of my expenses will incur in peso, which is the Mexican currency. For example, the cost of buying supplies, equipment, to pay salaries for workers, rent, and overhead. And in the United States, the coffee market has a very high level of competition, but I would maintain my competitive advantage through the distributing channel. We would be selling our coffee through mails. This would provide the customers with a tremendous flexibility and convenience, as they only need to go onto our website, place their orders, type in their shipping address, and a few days later there will be coffee in the front door. As I assess the certain factors that impact the balance of trade between the United States and Mexico, I find that my business will contribute to enlarging the trade deficit in the balance in the current account of the United States. The reason is because the United States is already experiencing a deficit in the current account due to the number of imports exceed export, and the imported coffee from my company to the United States will represent an outflow of funds from the United States that used to pay for that import. And another reason for the deficit in the balance of trade in the United States is that they are spending more on than earning money from foreign goods. And in Mexico, it's the opposite situation. Mexico will have trade surplus because their export exceed their import as they send coffee to the United States, and as they export coffee, they receive an inflow of funds, and that will make their current account have a positive balance. There are many factors that would affect the demand for my product. In the United States, one of the factors is national income. As people in the United States have higher income, they would be likely to demand more, not only domestic products but also foreign goods. And as they would demand more as they can afford, and that would drive higher income would make demands higher. And the second factor is the differentials in inflation rate. As the inflation rate in Mexico is inflation rate in Mexico is relatively smaller than the inflation rate in the U.S., that would cause goods in the U.S. looks more expensive as the purchasing power of the dollars decrease. And that would in turn makes Mexican products look cheaper. That would drive the U.S. consumer to buy more of Mexican products, including my Mexican coffee. and that's in turn what drives up demand for Mexican coffee as well. And then one of the most important factor that affect demand is also the exchange rate of the currencies. As the peso depreciates against the dollar, or in other words, as the dollar strengthens against the peso, it would take less dollars to buy the same amount of peso, which means you can buy more with which means the purchasing power of the dollars is high, which means you can buy more Mexican products, and that again will drive up demands as well. The trade data and import controls, according to the Congressional Research Service, they observed that the United States is Mexico's leading partner in merchandise trade, and Mexico is the United States' third largest trade partner and supplier of U.S. imports. And since NAFTA was signed in 1993, trade between the U.S. and Mexico has increased rapidly. And as for my business, I find that I would need to use the spot market, because I would have a startup fund that would be my savings, that is denominated in dollars. I would need to convert them into peso so that I can go to Mexico, enter into a rent contract for a factory and certain equipment, and then I would need to use peso to buy supplies and the coffee beans from the farmers as well. When it's time to pay wages to my Mexican workers, if I don't have peso at hand, I would also need to go to the spot market and trade in dollars to buy peso and pay my Mexican workers. All the revenues that are generated will be denominated in dollars, because I would be selling my products in the United States, and I would need to, all those revenues, I would keep the profit and convert the rest back into peso, and again to cover all the expenses. And this is the bid and ask price for at the spot market. It is the value of the dollar in peso. If I have dollars and I want to convert into pesos, with $1 I would pay at the bid price. With $1 I can buy 13.0143 pesos. But if I have pesos and I need to convert back to dollars, I would have to go with the ask price. With 13.0226 pesos, I can buy $1. And as always, the ask price is larger than the bid price. I might need to use the forward market in my business to hedge accounts payable, if I'm afraid that in the future the U.S. may depreciate and my accountant will look at this about 3 months ago, there are more, you would be able to see more fluctuation, but don't forget that the reason why it looks like it depreciates a lot is because the increments on the y-axis is very small as well. From February 6th to May the 6th, you see that that the value of the dollar has depreciated from 13.33 peso down to 13.0087 peso. And this is the trend for the past year. This is the value of the dollar in pesos still from May the 6th of 2013 to May the 6th of 2014. Overall, generally speaking, you would see that the general trend of the dollar is to appreciate against the peso. And in the future, I'm pretty sure that this trend will continue. It is very unlikely for the peso to appreciate against the dollar. There are a lot of elements that influence the value of the currency. In this case is either peso or the dollars. The trade balance. The trade balance can affect the currency value in a way that it consists of the demand and supply of the currency. If, let's say, the United States already has a deficit in balance of trade, it means the United States imports more than export, and it means it needs more. The United States imports more, so it needs more peso to pay for the foreign goods, which is the Mexican goods. And because of the demand for peso is high to pay for those imports, then the value of the peso will likely to be driven up because of high demand, and also as demand for peso rises, supply for dollars will also rise. The second factor is the interest rate. Excuse me. In the market, for example, if the economy of Mexico is not performing so well, the interest rate is likely to be low, so that it makes it easier for people to borrow, and as they borrow more, they would spend more. This is pertain to the Mexican, and as they spend more, the economy would likely to be expanded, and as more people are borrowing, the interest rate would place an upward pressure on the interest rate, which raises the interest rate, and that in turn would limit the borrowers, but it would make the market of Mexico much more attractive to foreign investors because they can earn higher return if they lend to the Mexicans. And employment outlook also can affect currency value in a way that if employment rate in Mexico is high, then people would be spending less, and the economy would also likely to be stagnant. That would drive down the demand for the peso because no one would like to invest in peso or the